Let's talk a little about event delegation, what it is when frameworks do it, and why it can create situations where it breaks expectations for developers. So the first thing to understand is the actual way that events work. Basically, when you click this span here inside the DOM, the event will bubble upwards towards the root of the document, which would be this HTML element. So you click here, then it bubbles up to this button, bubbles up to the body, bubbles up to the document. That's how native event handlers work. You can see in this example, events are directly bound to the actual elements. So if I wire up event listeners to where this button is supposed to show an alert, but if you click this span, it won't show the alert because it stops the bubbling process, then we can see that we don't get an alert shown. And if you click like this outer edge here, you can get the alert to show because you managed to bypass the span. So when looking at frameworks, what a lot of them will do for performance reasons, I don't know what the benchmarks look like. I don't know what any of that looks like. So they just all claim performance. If you look at Svelte 5, for example, again, I have a button, I have a span. When I click this span, I would expect this stop propagation call to prevent it from going upwards to this button that I directly bound to. And again, we can see in DevTools here, this button has an event directly bound to it. But because Svelte does event delegation, what it's going to do is it hoists the event listener that we have here on this span. You can see there's no event here on the span. It hoists it up to the root rendering spot, which is usually the body here. And so what will happen, and you can even see handle event propagation here. So they've made their own event delegation for you. So when I click this, it shows the alert, which it should not. So we can look at other frameworks like Vue. Vue does not do this. You can see there's no alert shown. If I click the outer edge, works as expected. This is Ember here. Same thing. I click, nothing. Preact, which is like an alternative to React. Same thing. This actually does direct binding. You can see in the code here. You can see the event is attached directly to the elements. Again, button has its own event, span has its own event. So now let's look at React. This is React 18 here. We have directly bound to the button node, and then we stop propagation from React's native event, or React's synthetic events, I should say. If we come in here, look at the actual elements, what's interesting is the span actually gets its own event attached, and yet for some reason, it doesn't actually work. It still shows. So I don't even know what React's doing. React seems to... Oh, it looks like it places an empty event to be able to get the native event. So you can also, we could also try e.native event.stop propagation, which you think would work, but it does not. It still shows. And then React 19, which is supposed to fix everything for custom elements. Same thing. Native event, stop propagation. This should stop it from getting to the alert. But when we click this, it doesn't stop it. And if we come in again, DevTools, look at the button, attaches this empty event that does nothing just to capture the actual event. And then the real event is living at the root here. Now, obviously, it's being... You can't see it here because there's all these other events attached, but... So this is kind of a contrived example here. It's not super robust, but like this does happen to real sites. Like, so for example, I work on a library called Shoelace, and we have this thing called a tree component, where when you expand it, it opens up a tree. Now, you probably shouldn't do this. You probably shouldn't nested interactive elements, a button inside of a tree item. But that's besides the point, right? So in theory, I want to be able to come in here, stop propagation of this event from this button so that the tree doesn't know about it. So in theory, if I call stop propagation, it should prevent this from happening, but it continues to close it. The solution is if you use a ref callback and attach a listener directly onto the underlying node. So if instead of on click and then doing that, what you need to do is you need to use a ref callback and then do node, and then the node.add event listener click, and then when it's clicked you need to do a stop propagation. Stop propagation. And this will give you access to the actual native event. You're no longer using event delegation where everything is hoisted up to the body and it creates its own event stack. So now when I click this, it doesn't close because we've attached it natively to the actual button. So that's the video I have on event delegation, the problems it creates. Some frameworks like React do provide escape hatches. It's just unintuitive if you're not aware of it. All right, thank you for watching.